I think you can watch Kamen Rider Gotchard, The Future Daybreak on its own. Admittingly, you'd be missing a lot of the context and the callbacks to the main Kamen Rider Gotchard TV show and other ancillary Gotchard media, but the movie is fundamentally a story about a superhero whose diminishing hope is rekindled before he goes on to inspire many more. It's just digestible enough as a tie-in movie, despite being set around the final quarter of the show, that a parent that got dragged to the theater by their kid could reasonably follow along the plot, I imagine. That said, if you've already seen and didn't like Kamen Rider Gotchard the TV series, I don't think Future Daybreak is going to retroactively change your opinion on it. If you did like the show, Future Daybreak basically builds off all the best bits. Or, at the very least, it builds off the bits that I personally really liked, so I found it to be a very breezy hour-long watch. Do they do it well? Mostly. Spanner's kinda just stuck beefing with his evil doppelganger, and while it's appropriate that Hellcrate takes the form of the Angel Lead Malgam for this matchup, there's a part of me that really wishes that Kamen Rider Valvarad was made to fight a facsimile of Spanner's own monstrous Malgam form instead. Spanner's best interaction with the movie has got to be with the cameoing Kamen Rider Gavv. You'd think that the straight-laced Spanner would be more flabbergasted by the notion of a gummy-themed superhero than he actually is, but like, a Hotaro's neutral special is literally turning into a gun, among other things, so I imagine that set a fairly high bar as is. Gavv's cameo action sequence is fun, it's very kinetic and high energy. I'm most impressed they're able to match this level of energy in the Kamen Rider Gavv show itself, since, the movies usually have a bit more budget and time going into them. But since we're on the topic of cameos, Tsukasa Karuya's is fantastic. He's only in the movie for all of a minute of screen time and absolutely just steals it. Kamen Rider Decade doesn't get an action sequence, his scene is entirely in service of rounding out Kamen Rider Legends' story. And this particular story beat is also the one I think loses the most without prior context, what with Kaguya's story being piecemealed between a spin-off miniseries, an arc in the Kamen Rider Gotchard show, and this movie. But even in isolation, I trust that a casual moviegoer could have still pieced together that this is about a younger superhero who idolizes another superhero finally getting that in-person seal of approval. I quite like that Tsukasa doesn't just step in and participate in Kaguya's battle. He merely pulls up the younger rider at one of Legend's lower points and pushes him along. Having two very similar looking superheroes work together isn't strictly necessary for that end, particularly because the main plot is already about two very similar looking riders working towards a singular goal. Similar to the point of being the same person, actually. Yeah, the other Gotchard is Hotaro from a future where the villain won, and now Gurion is just slowly picking off the remnant opposition. The movie also pulls the reveal that the show's timeline isn't even the original. It branches off because during the TV series, Gotchard Daybreak had come back during the Christmas episode to save everyone. Doing so has not saved his own reality, so in spite of being an icon that inspired hope in the show, by the events of the movie, future Hotaro is a very, very broken man. It's always cool when this sort of multiversal storytelling builds other characters by association. Even though our Hotaro is a boundless, loud bundle of optimism, this Hotaro shows that he indeed has a breaking point. The movie also plays with other such what-ifs. In the show, Gurion's plan is to obtain ultimate power by absorbing these three guys who were originally fused together as this bigger guy, and the underlying implication was sort of, if Gurion had screwed up at this plan somehow, he'd just end up reviving the bigger guy in his body. In the show, he does obtain ultimate power and become the ultimate sleazeball, but in the movie, this potentiality comes to pass. The show and the movie even further distinguishes this by giving Gurion's different variants two separate villainous Kamen Rider mantles. In the movie, he is Kamen Rider Dorado, and fittingly looks like a mini version of the aforementioned big evil guy. In the show, he is the garishly gold Kamen Rider Elb. Together, they are Kamen Riders Eld and Dorado, reflecting Gurion's weird gold hyperfixation. That's fun. Anyway, unless I were to single out specific episodes of the show, the future Daybreak is probably my favorite piece of Gotchard media. Tentatively, at least, perhaps the upcoming sequel movie, Graduation, will turn out to be way better. But that's enough from me. If you've seen the movie, what did you think of it? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Like, subscribe, and until next time, see ya.